And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, December 2nd. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the Bears and them firing head coach Matt Eberflus after their most recent loss to the Lions on Thanksgiving. We will get into all that in just a second. In the second part of the show, we will recap last night's game between the 49ers and the Bills. The Bills winning 35-10, but we will also talk about Christian McCaffrey leaving that game early with a knee injury, and he's possibly out for the rest of the season now. And it looks like the 49ers season could be over. We'll get into all that in the second part of the show. Third part of the show, we'll get into the Eagles and their win over the Ravens, 24-19. They improved to 10-2 on the season. We'll also talk about the shootout in Cincinnati between the Steelers and the Bengals. The Steelers putting up 40 points in that game. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll preview tonight's game between the Broncos and the Browns. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Bears and their loss to the Lions. So the Lions still remain with one loss on the year. They improved to 11-1 on the season with that win over the Bears. And I will say, did go 3-0 on Thanksgiving in the spread pool, although I am currently at 9 wins, which does not surprise me because I knew that that's how things go with me. Is I'll do good on Thanksgiving. I even won the Black Friday game as well. I took the Raiders with the points. I ended up doing that. But did not really do good in the 1 o'clock slate or the early window slate. Later window, I did win the Sunday night game. I did win the Rams-Saints game, but I lost. I didn't take the Panthers, and I didn't take the Eagles. I ended up taking the Ravens. And the Ravens were up in this game, or in that game. We'll talk about it later, but they ended up losing. But I did take the Bears with the 10.5, and it wasn't looking good in the beginning. The Lions shut them out. The Bears did not pick up a first down in this game until, towards the end of the first half. It was like less than a minute left. They finally picked up a first down. They could not get anything going offensively. The Lions dominated time of possession. They were going up and down the field. Now, the Bears defense did a good job at keeping them out of the end zone. They did have that touchdown to Sam Laporta, but other than that, it was Jake Bates' field goals. And then Laporta scored another touchdown later in the game. But, the Lions were getting chunk plays. They were running the ball well. But the Bears' red zone defense held up. So they kept the game within distance. And the Bears were able to slowly chip away at that lead. And, they made it close, but they fell a little bit short. Kind of like what it's been the last 3 weeks now against their divisional opponents. They had an opportunity to win all these games. Against the Packers, against the Vikings, pulled off a miraculous comeback there, but fell short. And then against the Lions, they had an opportunity to either tie the game, send it to overtime, or even win the game. But they fell short. And a lot of that comes with coaching. It comes with coaching. And Matt Eberflus, I said going into this season that it was going to be one of the biggest things that had to go well was the coaching. And if Matt Eberflus ended up not doing well, finishing with a good record, he was going to be gone after this year. And he ended up being gone before the season even ended because of what happened at the end of the game. The Bears have the ball. They're driving. They got a timeout left. And you're, at midfield, and you need to get, a few more yards to get into field goal range, to at least have a chance. And Cairo Santos is a good kicker. And, the way kickers, we've seen a lot of missed kicks, but we've also seen guys just make it from 60 like it's nothing now. The Bears had an opportunity to tie this game. It was more likely that they could tie the game as opposed to win it. And they got down to They had the ball at the end of the game, and you got down to the Detroit 25. Now, they got pushed back because of a penalty, 10-yard penalty, illegal use of hands on the offense. So that set them back. So it was 2nd and 20. Then Caleb Williams takes a sack. It was supposed to be, I believe it was supposed to be a design run, but he ended up getting sacked. And there were 36 seconds left in the game when this happened. You still have one timeout. And for some reason, the Bears just did not use the timeout. And they let the clock wind all the way down for one last play. And Caleb Williams chucks it up downfield to Rome Odunze, and it's overthrown, and the game's over. And they lose by 3 points. What I don't understand is, how is there not a timeout called? I was on my way to my grandma's house watching this game on my phone, and I'm saying, all right, use a timeout, because it was clear that no one had any idea what was going on. Caleb Williams was at the end of the game said he was trying to change the play, but at that point, when you're seeing this, a timeout needs to be called, because it's obvious that this was not going to go anywhere. But they just let the clock wind all the way down and let that final play go, and they had no time left. All you had to do was get, 5 or 6 more yards, and you would have been okay. You're at the Detroit 41-yard line. All you have to do, like I just said, get a couple more yards. You're on the cusp of field goal range. And then it's going to be close though, because obviously if you don't pick up the first down, the field goal unit has to run out on the field and kick it as the clock winds down. But I think they would have had enough time to at least kick it. But I don't know what happened on that last play. I really don't get it. You just got to call a timeout. And they didn't do it. And the Bears lose a heartbreaker. The Lions, look, they got the win, but the Bears, they could have won it. The other thing, too, is, like I said, you put up a goose egg in the first half. You didn't pick up a first down until, after the 2-minute warning. Everything kind of changed because the Lions looked like they were going to go down the field and score again at one point, and Jahmyr Gibbs ends up fumbling. Now, the other thing with Jahmyr Gibbs, posted something on social media with one of the other running backs, and there's a whiteboard, and all of the Lions play call, or not all of it, but Lions play calls are on that whiteboard. What's up with that? And Dan Campbell was asked about it, and he said he wasn't aware of it, and he said, we're not trying to have people see our stuff, or whatever he said. But that's a separate thing. But yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs fumbles, and the game stays at 16-0. And then later in the game, Jake Bates, who hasn't had a miss all season, he ends up missing a field goal. And, the Bears still were in the game. Keenan Allen had a couple of touchdowns in this game. Caleb Williams made some nice throws, but he also got hit a lot. He is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. Now, part of it is also him holding on to the ball too long. Now, once he gets that squared away, he should be better, but got to get better protection for him. And also you had that hit on the sidelines where he was, running towards the sidelines, and Lions player came over and hit into him, and he slid awkwardly. We're lucky nothing serious happened to him. Otherwise, that would have been catastrophic there. But he got knocked around a lot. There were a couple times where it took a little bit for him to get back up. And also, looking at the Lions too, they had a ton of injuries. You had the backups to the backups playing, which is not good. You're already down Aiden Hutchinson, Alex Anzalone. Those are two of your best players on defense. But now your depth you really have no depth. But I think if there's any team that can handle it, it's them. They're 11-1 at this point. They're going to make the playoffs. Now, you got a couple of teams in your division who are right behind you. And we got a big game on Thursday when they take on the Packers. And that has major implications. Now, obviously, if the Packers win, it doesn't mean that the Packers overtake them for the division. But still, gets them closer. This is a tough stretch here for the Lions. So they got to figure it out, but they are figuring it out with another close win. I mean, they've been blowing teams out. And look, this North Division is tough. It's a very tough division. The Bears, they're 4-7 right now, 4-8, but they could very easily have more than 4 wins. You lost on a Hail Mary, a blocked field goal to win the game. You lost in overtime, and you lose this game here. But I do think that, if you had a more experienced head coach. Now, Matt Eberflus has been there for a few years now. Well, now he's not there. A timeout would have been called. But they got to go in a different direction. Now, the offenses look better. There's no question about it. The offenses look better since Shane Waldron left. But I don't know what the Bears are going to do at the end. I mean, that's going to be a popular destination for a head coach, a potential, head coach candidate that wants the job. A lot of people point to Ben Johnson of the Lions. The thing I will say, though, and this is being said in media, is you don't want all these different coordinators. Again, this is Caleb Williams' second season that he'll be going into. If there's a whole new system, that's 3 offensive coordinators that he's been with. So we'll see what the Bears end up doing, but they have a good enough roster. If you get the right head coach in here, this team's going to be good. And you already saw that. You're already seeing the progress. Shane Waldron gone. The offense has looked better. So, but it was a tough loss for them. And the Lions, they just continue to win. But they got a lot of injuries, like I said. And, hopefully they can figure that out. But, hey, they continue to win games. So, they are in the driver's seat for home field advantage. And, listen, we're going to talk about them later in the show, but we could be looking at a Lions-Eagles NFC Championship game. I think that's what we're headed towards right now. Anthony Manzano in the chat. What's going on, man? He had a few things to say. He said, "Have said this multiple times that I understand why these teams hire these geniuses or so-called wonder kids as future head coaches. Send them to college for a couple years to learn how to beat head coaches at a lower Power 5 school in the Big Ten, SEC, and maybe Group of 5. And then he also said, that's a question I was going to ask with Caleb holding the ball too long. Is it because he doesn't trust his offensive line? Because that makes no sense to me. Why hold it so long? You would think it would have to be the opposite way, having him released all quicker so he doesn't have to trust his offensive line to hold blocks for a long time. I really don't know what it is. I mean, maybe it's just because he's trying to extend the play, because that's what he loves to do. I mean, that 3rd and 15 to Keenan Allen, that was a good play. You see the ability that he has. It's just the offensive line. It's a combination of the offensive line and him holding on to the ball, why he's taking so many hits. But I don't know if it's that he doesn't trust. I mean, maybe he doesn't trust it, but I think he just wants to extend the play. He wants to, get that big chunk play. And sometimes, it's better off to just take the check down or throw it away. You don't have to play hero ball all the time. And look, this is only his first season. The talent is there. He's going to get better. It's just, it's disappointing. It's disappointing because this team does have a lot of talent. It's just they're not well coached. Well, now they moved off the coach. That was one of the problems. They don't have the right coaching staff in place, and I think once you get the right coaching staff in place, this team is going to be a lot better. But they play in a very tough division. And they could have very easily won these last 3 games, but they didn't. They went 0-3. They're 4-8 right now. I think there are some wins, maybe, in there, but as of right now, they are what the record says they are, and that's 4-8. But yeah, Matt Eberflus. At the end, I didn't mention this though. He said that he thought they did the right thing with how the end of the game played out, and that's kind of what costed him his job. So, I mean, more so the decision of not calling a timeout as opposed to, what he said after the game. But now the Bears are going to be looking for a new head coach, and that's, like I said, that's going to be a popular spot for whoever wants it. So let me know what you guys think, though, about Matt Eberflus being fired. What were your thoughts on the game as well? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we will discuss last night's game between the Bills and the 49ers, and we'll talk about the Christian McCaffrey injury as well. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.